Okay, all right. This is my Endgame, probably spoiler-free review, not review, commentary. My Endgame blog. Really don't expect to have any spoilers in this. It's not really my intention. Maybe generalized spoilers, but nothing direct. No direct spoilers. I want to talk about the overall success of Endgame. I've been all morning. I waited till Monday, right? I was really trying to wait to Sunday, and I got to Sunday. I said, you know what? Let me just wait till Monday to start talking about this. And it's really nothing to do with the story in the movie per se, but it is talking about the success of the movie. And when I say the success of the movie, I'm talking about the fact that it sold so many tickets, and how did it get to where it was. And I posted this on my Florida LitCon page because I think there's a connection. I had put Florida LitCon together over the years of this, thinking of LitCon over the years since, first Iron Man and all those movies started to come out. Just because I saw a connection between the success of the comic book movies and the comic books. I mean, some people like to call them superhero movies. Some people like to call them sci-fi movies. And those are all descriptions of the type of movies they are. But they also are comic book movies with years of source material, years of stories. And while the Infinity Wars story by, I forgot his name, Mark something, some nerd will correct me, involved a lot of superheroes. I mean, Dr. Doom, Galactus, Silver Surfer, all these guys. He pretty much tried to put everything Marvel into it, so it would include and involve all of the superheroes, right? So at that point, even Thanos wasn't the most powerful supervillain, okay, in the story, but in this one, he was. So that, I think, is a major factor in it, or a factor that we don't want to forget or overlook. But a lot of times we do. I've seen a lot of blogs, filmmaker sites. How do we get a black Endgame? And I'm just gonna say, fall back, bro. Hollywood would like to get more Endgames, but Marvel figured it out how to do it. They did it so well that they built their own studio off of the success. So they grew out of other studios just because of the success of these superhero comic book stories. But how do they get there? Well, they had, like we say, they're comic book movies. These stories go back to the 90s, and then the characters go back to the 70s and the 80s, okay? And so when we talk about Endgame, we've got to talk about all of the movies, right? And then all of the comic books that came, that the movies came from. And what does that do? It gives you a chance. Like when you put out a movie, it's a story, okay? And the movie, I was just telling my son, is probably the granddaddy of all storytelling mediums. Bigger than books, bigger than comic books, bigger than kind of anything out there. The oral story is bigger than that. Movies involve everything, actors, directors, editors, you name it. Marketing, they may even change the name of the movie in the marketing. So it's a lot more than just a writer and an editor, or a writer, editor, and publisher like a book or a comic. Comics have writers, editors, and publishers. Sometimes the illustrators, the inkers, the illustrator who does the original sketches may have an impact on the storytelling. They may say, hey, I can do this as a spread, I can do this as another page, but that's it. But it's nothing like an actor being able to say, I can do this with a different accent. So books have, film has a lot more going for it. Not only that, when you have a story that gets put out there in the universe to the market, now you have feedback. Comic books have feedback. Now we know comic book fans are probably the most fiercest, out of everybody. These comic book nerds, if they don't like something, they're going to let you know. You make Hulk Asian, you make Thor a female, they're going crazy. So those are things that would destroy a film if your market came out in retaliation to something that you tried to do. As fierce as comic book fans, you can't change it. Your movie is just flopped. Not to mention books. Books have Amazon reviews. People are all over telling y'all, I didn't like the way they didn't need this sex scene. I didn't like the way that character. I didn't like the ending. All types of stuff. Very detailed things. You can go back. You can edit a book. Okay? You can stop a comic. Comics is already drawn, but you can stop the series because most of the time, every character is going to have a series, so you can dead that series, cut your losses, and keep moving on. Whereas a film, you can't do too much. If they didn't like Thor as a woman, and you made a female Thor movie, it's a wrap, yo. So also, the success on the win side. You take something like The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. People wanted the fourth book or fourth movie so much that they just took the brand and said, hey, we need to see the movie and write the movie first before the book comes out. The author had died, and they just said, you know what, we need to see this movie. And so there you have it, that it came out that way. And I think that's another thing. Then you have brands like Star Wars. The fans just wouldn't let it go. After Return of the Jedi, he had more movies to make, but the studios weren't feeling it, and he shelved it. But the fans kept the books going. They started writing books, comic books. Then the animated cartoons got in the conversation, and by that time it was just so big that they said, yo, let's do it. Let's do another one. Let's finish the story. And that's why we have the 3 more that we had, the prequels. And then they are doing this Force Awakens as a trilogy, which was really just one movie at the end. Originally, George Lucas had 7 stories, which was the first 3 and then the second 3. So he had that, but I'm messing up. But what do you call it? They didn't go with it. So instead of doing the 7, he ended up with 9 because they turned this last 7th one into three movies. So they added 2 more on. So he got 9 movies out of it instead of just the 7 that he originally had. So why am I saying all of this? I'm saying my argument is Florida LitCon. My argument is the goal of what I made Florida LitCon for, and that was to really cross-conversate, right? To have a conversation where film can use books, books can use film, film and books can use comic books. What does that mean? That means, hey, John Singleton has been in my prayers a lot because he's a guy that I will always see at the American Black Film Festival, whether it was the first time seeing him walking on the sands in Acapulco or whether it was seeing him at the pool on South Beach. Wherever they had the film festival, John was there, right? But he's most known for Boys in the Hood. And Boys in the Hood is an incredible, endearing brand that is still strong to this day. But how successful would a book be if it said, yo, let's follow the life of Ricky's child? Is he going to grow up and be like his father? Now I know there was some connection to Baby Boy in that. Okay, no doubt. But then we also have Trey. We also have Doughboy, because I don't think Doughboy died at the end of that. What happened to their lives? You understand what I'm saying? Did Trey have any children? Did he ever get married? What did he do when he went to college? Did he come back and try to clean up the hood? Urban books have 50 million street lit. They have 50 million stories like the follow up to these guys. But yet, if they were told within the Boys in the Hood brand, not only would the books do well, but they probably would lead to a sequel to the movie with more connection. Then you have graphic novels, comic books. Let's not act like, graphic novels comic books can't tell a dramatic story. You know what I'm saying? I always joked about doing Boys in the Hood and, it'd be a retelling of the story, but instead they say, you want to see a vampire body? You know what I'm saying? Instead of seeing a dead body, they go and see a vampire body or something like that. It just spruce it up. Mainstream stories do that all the time. One of my favorite ones that came out a couple of years ago was Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer. Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. Those were actually decent movies. They weren't trash. But again, if we were to do something like that, just to play with our brand. We have these brands, but yet, we try to write books. They only go as far as street lit, and that's beautiful. Other people would say, I don't want to read it. But if they would have called it Boys in the Hood, then everybody would read it. It wouldn't even be called street lit. Now, if they'd have came out with a comic book, we'd have had graphic novel success all around. So I just throw that out there. It's food for thought. You know what I'm saying? I tell filmmakers all the time, I love your original story, but you may be a better director, a better editor, maybe a better visual person, than you are a writer. So why don't you license a project? Why don't you get a book, get a comic book, and say, hey, I'll give you a piece of the money. I'll give you $1,000. Put this down on your project. I just want to get the license for one film. How about that? I don't even need, the license for 7 years. I just need it to do one adaptation of your book. You can do you can still sell it to Hollywood. Most authors, they don't even know how to pitch their books to Hollywood. I'm an author. I don't know how to pitch my book to Hollywood. I'm doing LitCon because I got tired of walking around with a book in my bag and saying, hey, Spike Lee, take a look at my book. I just felt no matter how nice I dressed, how articulate I was, how suave my proposal was, I felt like he was looking at me as a street hustler, as somebody that didn't really have it together. But that's the arrogance of film, because they even I've seen Essence bestsellers get looked at sideways by filmmakers who don't have shit, who don't have, haven't won a film award, and have won film awards, but they made no money. How beautiful is a film award? Yeah, you won this film festival, but your movie still didn't come out. You didn't get distribution for a movie. Your movie came out and bombed. These are Essence bestsellers that mean you got to have commercial success. This is an award from achievement of sales. So let's not look down at these writers. If they're Essence bestseller, they've sold some books. They may have a series. There's no reason why L.A. Banks doesn't have film adaptations. I might want to adapt L.A. Banks, okay? I'm going to get myself ready. I'm going to make a pitch for her. I'm going to acquire L.A. Banks thing. The thing with her is she's not a independent writer. So she was Simon & Schuster, St. Martin. And St. Martin is going to probably hold it out to the highest bidder. And that's sad, but it is what it is. But, I will do the Vampire Huntress series. May start off with a fan film just to do it. But I'm putting it out there. All right, guys. Let me just get it off my chest. I'm talking about Infinity Wars, but it really ain't about Infinity Wars. I'm going to get into that probably in another one. Give it a couple of days, maybe by the end of the week. All right, y'all. Peace out.